Oh, hello! Welcome to Wheel Talk. I'm Recappa Sedai. Today we're going to talk about The Eye of the World, Chapter 1, and Empty Road. And I'm so glad you're here because it's almost bell time. Let's party. Okay? Spoiler-free recap. We begin with this gorgeous introduction about the wind. The wind was not the beginning. There are neither beginnings nor endings to the turning of the wheel of time, but it was a beginning. It's so beautiful! We go to Rand al'Thor and Tam al'Thor and their horse Bella. Here's to Bella. Carting some cider and brandy through the Westwood to Emond's field. Tomorrow is Beltane and there's going to be a huge festival. Rand starts to feel like he's being watched. Rand turns around and there's this dark cloaked figure on a black horse and he feels hatred radiating out of this thing's, he can't see its face, but he just feels hate. Can you imagine just feeling hatred coming at you? Hatred. Rand, who was already feeling jittery, is totally freaked out. He trips on a rock. Tam's like, what's the matter? Rand's like, there's a hooded rider following us. He's right there. And he's gone and there's just an empty road. Oh, that's the name of the chapter. Rand says to Tam, he was there, I swear he was there. Tam is like, sure, yeah, if you say so, we could go look for hoof prints. Rand's like, no, it's okay, I'm probably just seeing things, it's cool. But he knows there was something there. He knows. What was really weird, the hooded figure's cloak didn't move in the wind. Rand realizes that and he's just shook. And then we get to Emond's field and it's just so charming. I adore Emond's field. Everyone wants to know how are things out in the Westwood, how are things out at the farm. Tam's like, well, the winter sucks there too. Everyone in the village is going through it. This winter has not been easy on them. Spring was supposed to come a month ago. Wolves coming down from the mountains. Times are hard. But most of the men rolled their shoulders and said, well, we'll survive, the light willing. And if the light doesn't will, we'll still survive. Basically, Two Rivers folk are badass and you don't want to with them. Tam and Rand are headed towards the Wine Spring Inn. This dude, Wit Conger, runs into the road, gets in front of Bella. The Congers and the Coplans, they're just... ugh. al'Thor, what are we gonna do about Nynaeve? She's too young to be the wisdom. She told us that we were gonna have a good harvest, and then we didn't. And when I ask her about it, she gets super mad, giving me attitude. Tam is like, dude, this is women's circle business. You don't want to get involved in that. But Wit won't shut up, and he's going on about it, and then his wife, Daze, comes out of the house. Daze is a lot cooler than her husband. Try meddling in women's circle business and see how you like eating your own cooking, which you won't do in my kitchen, and washing your own clothes, and making your own bed, which won't be under my roof. Girl. Tam is like, cool, I'm gonna bounce. He gets to the inn, and we meet Bran al'Vere, who is the innkeeper and the mayor. And Bran's cool. He's an innkeeper, he gets it. They have a serious talk about how bad things have been, the weather, the wolves. Cenn Buie, the Thatcher, shows up and just butts into their conversation. Cenn Buie's the Thatcher, and he's the worst. Worse than Wit Conger. Just a negative Nancy. He's like, maybe this winter will never end. Maybe this winter will just continue into the next age. And then he starts complaining about Nynaeve and how he can't stand Nynaeve. He has nothing good to say about Nynaeve. It's like, okay, dude, well, no one asked. So Cenn Buie is annoying Bran and Tam. They're distracted. And then we meet Matrim Cawthon. Matt's like, hey, we caught a badger. We're gonna let it loose on the green and watch the girls run. Come on, let's go. Matt is 19. Rand's smile broadened. It did not sound as much like fun to him as it would have a year or two back, but Matt never seemed to grow up. When he says Matt never seems to grow up, like, he's not kidding. I love you, Matt. I really do, but like, you're 19! Matt says something about strangers, and Rand brings up the hooded rider. Turns out Matt saw the same dude. Matt's like, well, now we should tell someone because if we both say it, people will believe us. And Rand's like, if you're with me on this, I actually think it makes me less credible. So Tam comes over, and Tam's like, oh, Matt, it's so nice of you to help us unload all this stuff. And Matt's like, Tam says, the sooner everything gets unloaded, the sooner you can see the Gleeman. It's been years since a Gleeman came to Emond's field. It's a big deal. Rand and Matt are super excited. Then Cenn Buie brings up fireworks. He's like, I can't believe we spent all this money on fireworks. And Tam is like, shut up, that's supposed to be a secret, thanks for nothing. Matt's like, fireworks? There are fireworks? Because there's rumors about fireworks. Turns out a lot of money has been spent to make this Beltane special because morale is so low. And I just think that's great. Rand's a really good mayor. The chapter wraps up with Rand saying, hey, you don't have to help me unload all this. And Matt's like, no, The sooner we finish, sooner we can see the Glee Man, and also maybe we'll run into Egwene. That would be so funny because you like her. Rand likes a girl. And Rand thinks to himself, maybe he won't see Egwene. And he's not sure what would be worse, seeing Egwene or not seeing her. That's cute. This concludes the recap. The second part of this video is the 13th Depository. I'm going to assume you've read all of the books and there may be spoilers. If you haven't finished the series, I recommend not watching any further because you don't want to be spoiled and you're going to be like, this is nuts. I pronounce this meeting sealed to the flame. Okay, let's serve some tea. Here's a question for everyone. Who is your favorite Wheel of Time character, and why is it Bella? Why do I love Bella so much? Like, there are a lot of horses in the Wheel of Time, and frankly, I don't care what happens to Mandar. I think it comes down to the fact that she's there since the beginning. We meet Bella before we meet Matt and Perrin. By the time we get to the end, when she actually plays a part in the last battle, like, she's been there since chapter 1, so it's hard not to love Bella. I'd like to talk about Whit Conger and Cenn Buie complaining about Nynaeve. How dare you? Do you know how lucky you are to have her as a wisdom? Do you have any idea? I'd like to read a passage from the Wheel of Time companion. She had a strong temper, and she did not suffer fools gladly. She cared very deeply about her responsibilities, even responsibilities no one else thought she had. This was not so much a matter of trying to take charge, though she certainly did that fairly often, but of seeing herself as having the responsibility that things went well for those she felt she should take care of. She is the best healer Emond's Field has ever seen, and you have the gall to complain? Go thatch a roof, Cenn Buie. Focus on yourself. Nynaeve is not perfect, but I feel for her as the wisdom. She deserves better. Ugh, I just spilled the tea. Let's talk about Myrddraal, also known as Fades, Halfmen, Lurks, Eyeless. There are a lot of names. I am going to call them Myrddraal. Aes Sedai should really never say this, but Myrddraal are kinda cool. Shadowspawn were created by Agenor. Pretty big claim to fame. It's easy to forget that because Agenor is always getting himself killed, and I just don't really think of him as one of the more effective Forsaken. Rand sees a Myrddraal for the first time. He notices that its cloak isn't affected by the wind. Spooky. In the Path of Daggers, there's a Grendel chapter that tells us a little more. Agenor had thought the creatures were not quite in the world in the same way everything else was. Slightly out of phase with time and reality, whatever that meant. Even the Forsaken don't fully understand Myrddraal. They're not completely in this reality. Myrddraal are the offspring of Trollocs. Some people theorize that Myrddraal are the Trolloc souls who would have been born channelers, but because Shadowspawn can't channel, they're born Myrddraal. Even though Myrddraal can't channel, there's definitely a connection between Myrddraal and the One Power. Myrddraal can sense channeling. Myrddraal are involved in the process of turning someone to the shadow. You channel through 13 Myrddraal, which just makes the whole thing scarier. What are your theories on Myrddraal? Let me know. I know I like to bag on Matt for acting immature. Rand and Perrin too, you wouldn't guess that they're 19. The first time I read The Wheel of Time, I figured Rand, Matt, and Perrin were all 16 at the oldest. If you look at how much these characters grow, he had to start them from this immature place so that he could give them that much further to go. Look at who Rand and Matt are in this chapter and who Rand and Matt are in A Memory of Light. It's hard to even think of them as the same characters. They grow so much. I want to thank Aradia for mentioning in the comments how much this chapter screams of Tolkien. We've got the Mountains of Mist, which sound an awful lot like the Misty Mountains. Then we've got this quiet, sweet little town, which is on the eve of a huge celebration. And then we have a Black Rider who shows up to shake things up. It feels so much like the beginning of Fellowship of the Ring. I'm here for it. I love that book. There's one more thing we have to talk about. This came up in the Facebook comments. My Brown Aja sisters would be so embarrassed if I forgot about it. The Eye of the World came out in 1990. In 2002, it was re-released as a young adult novel in 2 parts. The first part was called From the Two Rivers. The second part was called To the Blight. The prologue in that first book was different. Either Robert Jordan, the publisher, I don't know, decided that the young adult audience wouldn't be into this Dragonmount prologue. And I get where they were coming from. That prologue is a lot. I love it though. To make it friendlier to a young adult audience, Robert Jordan wrote a new prologue called Ravens. Ravens was told from the perspective of Egwene at 9 years old, 7 or 8 years before chapter 1. Emond's Field is very busy busy because it's sheep shearing time, and that's a big deal there. Egwene is walking around offering water to people. Egwene notices a raven watching this group of men. She's like, okay, that's sketchy. Is that the Dark One's eyes? Then she sees Perrin, and there are like a dozen ravens watching him. And then she sees Nynaeve, and there are a ton of ravens watching her. And Egwene's like, what is up with these ravens? Later, Egwene sees Rand, Mat, and Perrin. Tam tells the boys the story of the strike at Sheo Gul. This story of Luz Theron Telemon, the dragon. Perrin says, what's a dragon? And Tam doesn't know the answer. Which is super fun, because the dragon's his son, and he's right there. If you buy the Eye of the World nowadays, Ravens is not in there. This is a deleted scene. Brown sisters like me, we love a deleted scene. Anyway, if you were a young adult in 2002 and you bought the Eye of the World, it might have come in 2 parts, and you might have had a different prologue from everyone else. If you're one of those people, you basically have a special edition Wheel of Time book, and I want it. Give it to me. Next time on Wheel Talk, we're going to discuss Chapter 2 of the Eye of the World, Strangers. We get to talk about Moiraine. Get into it. Any thoughts you have on Chapter 2, Strangers, please email them to letsgetwheel@gmail.com or leave them in the comments so we can talk about it next episode. Until then, I'm Recappa Sedai. Walk in the light and keep it wheel.